Okay, so this is going to be a short video about how whoopings are schizophrenic and how schizophrenic slash jezebelic or quote unquote narcissistic parents whoop their kids. I also want to start off by saying whoopings are sexual abuse, and it revolves around covert and overt essay and a lot of attempted murder. So, starting off with the fact that they hear voices in their head that tells them that their kids are bad, or that their kids are evil, or that their kids are talking back, which just also revolves around projection as well, or that their kids are talking about them behind their back, and the voices will give them scenarios in their head that are telling them that these things are happening that really aren't. This is why people who quote unquote whoop in quote unquote corporal punishment and discipline their kids are quote unquote disciplined, so they say. This is why they'll whoop newborns and they'll whoop 1-year-olds and people who aren't even one, because they feel like the baby noises is the baby talking back, or that the baby doesn't like them and different things like that, because it's all double-mindedness and demonization. They excuse their behavior with quote unquote I'm grown, or quote unquote you're a child, which this revolves around ageism, and this is all rooted in pedophilia and chomoism. And then lastly, this is why you have people, I already said that. This is why people go into what people call BDSM as well. And a lot of people feel like it's just something that people go into due to sexual trauma or SRA, which all forms of abuse is a demonic ritual. So whoopings is a demonic ritual, but you don't even have to go through sexual abuse to go into sexual perversion or sexual confusion. It could just be generalized trauma, so any type of trauma. And this also makes me think about the green SpongeBob, which really symbolizes schizophrenia, or at least the spectrum of schizophrenia that's really just being a narcissist, which is the stereotypical schizophrenia. So SpongeBob will he'd be nice 1 minute and then be mean the next. Okay, so try number 2. This is called Ghosts Are Everywhere, or Dead Men Walking. I've always had intuition on the supernatural, so I knew I had epigenetic and generational spirits and generational curses overall from a young age. I knew I was possessed at times due to specifically generational marine spirits or sexual spirits from honestly, I always felt like it was more about what was passed down than even something happening, because even before what events did happen, I was already extremely messed up. So it was really generational. And of course, like I said before, my dad was sex trafficked. Of course, both my parents were molested. Most people were, to be truthfully honest. So there's that, but I'm gonna try to stick to the point today. Anyway, to get to the point, I also knew that my dad, etc., were also possessed. To skip through some stuff, because I want to get to the point about how your parents aren't your parents, because that's the main point. Okay, so I guess I could maybe mention this part because that's enough to do with it. So I started researching more at 8 on incubus and succubus spirits, and took notes from my own trauma and addiction since about 3. Research on subliminal messages that promote or even cause hypersexuality in music and TV, especially in cartoons, because there was a lot of that in there. I researched the beta sex kitten programming, SRA in the industry or in general. I concluded from watching me and others, or from my symptoms and watching others in their situations, that demonization comes from trauma, and SA lets in spirits of sexual perversion, and that all this stuff comes from marine spirits, and of course there's others too, but that's what I concluded then anyway. I mean, of course I knew about the spirit of lust and all that, but this is all kind of connected. And also mommy and daddy issues, so general trauma. So like not even just sexual trauma or even the epigenetic sexual trauma, but just generalized trauma causes quote-unquote mental illness or demonization. But I was mostly focusing on hypersexuality and things like that. I knew other things took control of me that made me hypersexual. I felt like it was worse than the usual multiple personalities from SA/false self from demonization and soul fractures. And to get to the point, I knew my parents, relatives, and other cash for kids system abusers had this, but worse. There were splits / schizonarcs, as I like to call it, which I have a playlist about schizophrenia, bipolar. I have a more recent one about ASD and PDs, but I haven't really finished that. So anyway, their souls were too fractured and they turned themselves over to the dark side, or to summarize, they allowed themselves to be turned over to a reprobate mind. They got triggered one day, split, and never went back to their true core self. Their ghost / not real / dead man walking. I would wish for them to let go of pride and snap out of it and come back. They don't know the Most High, themselves, or me. They're not real. And they aren't themselves. Your parents aren't your real parents. Practically shapeshifters, almost like clones. Sometimes under my control to kill you, even before you're born. Age regressed and split to fill their voids with sex addiction. Don't let yourself become unreal and dead too. Then I wanted to mention the crazy argument video or playlist, which that was on the part 1 channel, and I don't have any of that anymore due to like the whole situation with CPS snitching and getting some of that stuff compromised, so the email got compromised. But it was a playlist with the videos where my dad started manifesting with this one girlfriend he had, and the demon was talking out of him, the Leviathan and other spirits, and it said, "You're trying to crucify me, and I've been alive for over 5,000 years. And then the quote-unquote girlfriend type thing started speaking in tongues, which there's a lot I can say about that bull crap. Not that I don't believe in speaking in tongues, but it's just the situation, because it's like, people know that they're called, but they don't really know how to get over their trauma, so they're like sleeping around and stuff and getting into relationships that they shouldn't be. But then they expect for speaking in tongues to work in a situation that they put themselves in. But even that was even crazy to me then when the situation was happening, how like she felt like that was going to get her out of it. But anyway, after all of that was said and done, and my dad went on a rant about locking me up, or getting me locked up with my mom, or him and my mom getting me locked up and killing me and his girlfriend and all that, about manifesting. So really the demons were speaking out of him. The girlfriend gave a prophecy, and I call it, well, I'm not going to say her real name, but I call it Kiki's prophecy. And so pretty much she told my dad that one day I was going to get away from him, and that he wasn't going to have anybody anymore, and that he was going to die alone. And the thing is, throughout the years, what I've always worried about the most is like, not even just my parents or relatives, but people who are living in the false self and are torturing people and letting the demons take over them to torture people and themselves in general. And like, one, the afterlife. I worried about them going to hell, and just the depressingness of it all. The depressingness of living in the false self and just living in a constant cycle of being a victim, the constant cycle of things never going right, the constant cycle of living in chaos and terrorizing people and terrorizing yourself and never having anything, and always being depressed and always blaming everybody else for everything, and always having demons giving you nightmares and stuff. Like I used to mention, my mom, she couldn't even sleep by herself or sleep without lights being on or with the closet door open because of the demonic torment. And the thing is, people rather run to like psychiatrists and stuff, some of them anyway, and get thrown on a whole bunch of hardcore drugs that mess them up more and gives them physical, mental, and spiritual health issues, than like take accountability and stop doing things that they're doing that cause issues that they have in the first place. Which, of course, overall mental illness comes from trauma or quote-unquote mental illness, depending on whether you're really showing symptoms or not. But anywho, all of that stuff, and it just sounds really terrible. And like, people are always talking about karma and the quote-unquote narcissist, because I hate these terms, to be truthfully honest, but they always talk about their karma. But honestly, I mean, the fact that they have the issues they have is already bad enough. And another thing I wanted to mention, this isn't something that I say or would ever say, but this is something that a lot of people say, or a lot of people get mad at people for saying. So when people say that their parents are dead to them, but the thing is, there's not really a point in saying that when somebody's already not alive anyway. Just because somebody's in front of you and they're breathing and they're talking, or supposedly they're talking, really the spirits are talking out of them, but just because they're doing all that doesn't mean that they're actually alive. And so I may even title this, Your Parents Aren't Actually Alive. And this is something that I always like knew to be true, and it's honestly really upsetting. And a lot of people, they have like this phase in their life where they have to accept that wait a minute, no, hold up, I'm messing this up. Not even a phase. Longing for the parents that they never had, or longing for their parents to be able to be parents. Stuff like that. It's hard to explain. Then another thing is that people always say that like the Jezebel spirit comes after the anointed, but commonly Jezebelic or quote unquote narcissistic people, their dark empaths are reprobate, broken, anointed people themselves, and you can tell that they had a call in their lives, but they let themselves go over to the dark side. Like my dad specifically has died way more than 12 times. He was shot twice. The second time outside my window, because he thought that like he could talk to people crazy the way he talks to me. And of course, older people can defend themselves, but youth can't. But that's a video of its own, which I have a playlist titled Projective Heroism, Why Abused Kids Can't Defend Themselves. Of course, the dude didn't get charged or anything, but that happened. And a lot of other times my dad died from heart attacks and strokes because he was born with a hole in his heart, which there's a lot I can say about that. And so yeah, your parents aren't your parents, or there's a ghost everywhere. That'll probably be a better title.